And the member for Warringah has the call.
Thank you, Madam Deputy Speaker. Through a unified and future-focused approach, Australia can be a superpower in an emerging global green economy and protect its incredible and unique environment. I would forgive many of the young people that are here watching this debate to feel a little bit jaded listening to the hubris that we hear on this issue, because there's always the blaming the other side and blaming everyone else, when the very topic of this MPR is in fact to put political differences aside and actually come to this place with a commitment to protect the environment. Because we can safeguard our environment for our children, and they will inherit this. And the degradation of our environment and the escalating impacts of climate change are the worst generational debt any generation has ever left, and that is on all our heads. Our environment needs us now, not tomorrow, not next term, now. The politicisation of environment policy has resulted in a failure to pass necessary laws, resulting in rapid biodiversity loss and degradation of our environment. This ultimately threatens our society and our economy. We depend on these systems for clean air, for water, for fertile soils, for crop pollination, protection from extreme weather events, and of course the biodiversity that keeps the whole system working. In Warringah, residents are passionate about protecting our environment and nature. At every school visit, children ask me to fight for our environment. It's their #1 issue. Locally, we celebrate and value access to our ocean, the protected Cabbage Tree Bay Marine Park Reserve, the Sydney Harbour Trust and national parks at North Head and Middle Head, as well as protected areas of Manly Dam and Bantry Bay. These areas have a deep historical significance, and community support has driven stronger government protection. Of course, that community support and activism was all the more obvious through the PEP 11 campaign, which ultimately that strength and dedication and perseverance of communities, environmental groups, local industries saw the government finally reject that licence. Australia has some of the most unique ecosystems in the world, but they're under threat. My community wants to see greater protection of nature through wildlife corridors and investment in the restoration of nature and biodiversity. And a first step must be to stop native forest logging. Members of Labor simply can have no credibility in protecting nature and their stated means if they continue to fail to require this within their party room. This has to be a line in the sand that native forest logging must stop. It makes no sense economically and is fast driving biodiversity loss. We know everyone has to have the courage to use also existing legislation. The biggest threat to our environment is ultimately our rapidly warming climate. Stop approving fossil fuel projects and extending their licences well beyond 2050. You can't say on one hand you want to protect nature and continue making the problem worse. It flies against all expert advice about how we can preserve our environment and biodiversity. And respectfully, as much as you want to point the finger at the Greens and at the Coalition, you have not lived up to expectations and promises. Protecting our environment is woven also within First Australians' love and respect of country. Just today, I met with First Nations Australians from the Beetaloo Basin who have discussed the serious concerns their communities have in relation to water because of fracking. They are desperate for the Minister for the Environment to use the water trigger to call in and investigate the concerns about groundwater availability and water quality and the increased risks of chemical and wastewater spills. But they have fallen on deaf ears, and there has been whilst we have implemented a water trigger in legislation, the Minister has declined to actually action it and use it. So what our future generations need, what children need, what our environment needs is action, not just word and rhetoric in this place. We know that it's not working for communities. So a government that cares about safeguarding the health and well-being of our communities has to be serious, and is serious, for example, of being a re-energised economy or strong economy, has to take protection of nature and biodiversity seriously. This is a must-have. Roughly half of our GDP, 49%, or some $896 billion, has a dependence on nature. Major industries, agriculture, fisheries, transport, logistics, accommodation, construction, all are impacted if we don't take action. In Western Australia, so the ones that we understand have been responsible for blocking some progress, they are exposed to 67% of their gross economic value dependent on nature.